Chris, you had a chance to sit down with President Obama. What's the headline?
Well, I can't give you the headline because, quite frankly, the White House embargoes it. You have a Sunday interview. They say you can't release most of it until Sunday. The one thing, and the reason that he gave us the interview in the first place is he's pushing very hard on his nominee of Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court. And given the fact that Republicans are blocking it, he wanted to go on Fox News Sunday to make his case. And he does talk about that. And one of the points he makes is he says even if this goes to a lame duck session and let's say Hillary Clinton is elected, he will not pull the Garland nomination. He will stay with Garland as long as he is president. So he's determined one way or the other to try to get him on the Supreme Court. I will say that we also talked to the president about terror and concerns a lot of people have that he underreacts when, for instance, there is the terrible attack in Brussels and he stays in Cuba and goes to a baseball game. And we also talk about Hillary Clinton. Back in October, he basically gave her a clean bill of health on her private email server. But since then, we've learned that she had 2,000 classified emails on her server, as well as 22 that had top secret information. And I asked him, does he stand by that? I promise you will be talking about that, and it will be making news Sunday afternoon and Monday.
We'll look forward to the interview on Sunday morning. In the meantime, it seems like Merrick Garland is as fine and as qualified a U.S. Supreme Court nominee as Republicans could expect from a Democratic president. What do you think?
No, I think that's right. And a number of Republicans have said that, which is one of the reasons, incidentally, that they are, a lot of them, holding open this possibility. Look, if a Democrat wins, and let's say it's Hillary Clinton, they might, in a rush after the election, confirm Garland because they know that Hillary Clinton would nominate somebody even further to the left. Garland is pretty moderate. In fact, a lot of liberals are unhappy with the president for naming Garland. But look, ultimately, this is not about principle, despite what the president says, and there's total hypocrisy on both sides of the issue. This is about power. A Democratic president wants to get liberals on the court. In this case, a Republican Senate doesn't want that, especially when it would change the balance of the court, since Merrick Garland would be replacing the arch conservative on the court, the late Justice Antonin Scalia. So this is all about the balance of power in the court, and for all the talk about principles, it really comes down to who can get to that majority of 5.
Right. How does President Obama factor into the presidential race, in your opinion, now?
I think actually he's going to factor in to some degree. There's a kind of rule of thumb in American politics that when a party is running after a 2-term president, so like Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, the Democrat trying to, in effect, have a 3rd Democratic term, the key issue is whether the president's approval rating, the sitting president's, is over or under 50%. Now, for a long time, Barack Obama has been in the low 40s, but recently, I think in large part because of the economy, stock market's up, obviously terrorism's still a big issue, but his approval ratings have crept up, so they're about 50% or maybe even a little bit more than that. And he's made it clear he's not going to be shy if the nominee is Donald Trump or Ted Cruz about going after them. In fact, he takes a couple of veiled shots at them in our interview. So I think he could be, he's not going to win it for the Democrats, but I think he could be a positive force for whoever the Democratic nominee is.
Now, the candidates have set their sights on the next big contest in New York, of course, and on the Democratic side, it's starting to get a little nasty, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I have to say, it always seems, and I've been covering presidential politics since Teddy Kennedy ran against Jimmy Carter in 1980 in the primaries. When they get to New York, for some reason, it just gets mean. I don't know if it's, and I say this as a former New Yorker, I don't know whether it's the people, I don't know whether it's the media, but you know how they talk about Iowa nice? Nobody ever talks about New York nice. So it just gets rough and tumble, and I think New Yorkers kind of enjoy it.
Yeah. Now, Ted Cruz's win in Wisconsin complicated Donald Trump's effort to get to 1237, but he's expected to do well in New York, perhaps in Pennsylvania as well. If he falls short of 1237, what's the reaction going to be when they get to the convention if there's resistance against Donald Trump, do you think?
Well, I think it'll be ugly. I mean, part of it is how close. I mean, is he at 1,000? Is he 200 votes short? Is he 50 votes short? You know, it's one of those things. In any case, I think that there are a lot of people who are going to go out of Cleveland unhappy. If Trump wins, the Cruz people will. If Cruz wins, the Trump people will. If it's a third candidate, you know, somebody like Paul Ryan, people talk about on the fourth or fifth ballot, even more people will. I will say this, that there are a lot of Republican insiders who say for all the talk about a divided party after the convention in Cleveland in July, there's one big unifier, and that's Hillary Clinton. And if she is the nominee, that Republicans, they may hate each other, but they will be unified in trying to stop her from being president.
What else do you have on Fox News Sunday this weekend, Chris?
Well, I think that's it. We're going to have the president. I will say we sit down and we have this very newsy interview, as I say, where we talk about terror and the Supreme Court and Hillary Clinton. But we also do a section, and remember, this is where he was a professor for a number of years at the University of Chicago. We go back to the law school. We go back to the room where he wrote his first book, Dreams from My Father, and we have a kind of a look back at the last 8 years. Best moment in the White House, worst moment, biggest accomplishment, biggest mistake. And I also say to him, if you could go back in time to that law school professor in 2004 who was thinking about running for the Senate, what would you tell him that you know now that he didn't know then? It's very interesting.
Yeah, it really wasn't that long ago when you think about it that way. I know where I'll be at 9 o'clock Sunday morning here on Fox 5, Chris.
And let me just quickly say, when you see this little cubbyhole that he was in 2004, it's a long trip to the Oval Office.
How about that? All right, Chris, thanks very much, as always.
Thanks, Russ.